guys at the end. Yeah.
Everybody's Twitter handle is there as well. And
Oh, wow, thank you.
all right, so in here we have print, online, and parent bloggers, and we have 20 minutes. So if we're going to start maybe with Sarah.
Let's see, Shailene, I know I spoke to you briefly last night. The script, or at least the early draft of it, was written by the same guys who did Protectively Now. And obviously that's a great film, and Miles is in it, which Miles is also in Divergent.
Yeah, he is.
I kind of wanted to go around and say, why isn't Miles in this movie? Because
He's in a cameo.
everything.
He actually has a cameo. He walks by in
No,
the
he
background.
doesn't.
Oh,
No,
really?
he doesn't. No, he doesn't.
Everybody would be searching for
Yeah.
No, he's not in this film because there wasn't a role for him.
It's mostly a joke question.
There aren't that many. The Fault in Our Stars is such a small movie. Like when I
It's
was
true, there are
watching,
not a lot of characters.
when I was watching Divergent, I just kept being like, so many people in this movie have lines. You know? Like,
Yeah, how do
there's
they
like,
fit these many
there's like
people?
60 people with lines. We have like 6 people with lines in our
Yeah.
movie.
The difference is there were 60 people with lines in Divergent, but everyone only had one line.
Yeah.
Right.
There's 6 people, but everyone has a line.
Yeah.
Everybody has,
Do you know how Scott and Michael were chosen to write the script?
I know a little bit about it. Do you?
No.
I don't. Yeah.
They were chosen because they're the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they were. Wick and Isaac, the producers of the movie, were looking for people who were good at book to movie adaptations, but who also. My main concern to them, the main concern that I had expressed was not with preservation of the story, but with preservation of the tone, which I thought was going to be really difficult to do. And I was worried the tone would get watered down, or and so. They talked to a bunch of people. They sent me a bunch of scripts. We had a lot of conversations, and then they finally said, we met with Weber and Neustadter, and they had an amazing take, and we think that they are the right people, even though they aren't. Initially they'd sort of wanted a writer director type of person, and they said, we really believe that they're right, and they wrote 500 Days of Summer, and did you like that? And I was like, yeah, I like that. And they were like, well, read this script for this movie, The Spectacular Now. And I read it, and I was like, yes, those guys.
So
Yeah.
good.
Because I'd read the book, The Spectacular Now,
Very
and
different.
it's very, very different. But they captured something that was really essential, the tonally, which is much more interesting to me than capturing story. And so and then they wrote
Much harder.
much harder. And then the first draft of the script was like finished. It was like perfect.
Wow. Okay.
So.
Was there actually, did you have a draft of this Imperial Affliction? Did you have
No, I mean, the only parts of An Imperial Affliction I ever wrote are the parts that appear in the book, and then the parts that appear in the movie. In the movie, Hazel is reading An Imperial Affliction, so I wrote
3 pages, right?
3 or 4 pages.
I have a copy of the fake Imperial Infliction
Me
book,
too, me
and I
too.
have it's just 3 pages that repeats itself.
Yeah,
They're
just
good
4
3
pages that
Yeah.
repeats for 700 pages.
Yeah.
It's really meta. It's a beautiful novel. It's a little repetitive toward the end, but it's a great book.
The whole thing is a little repetitive.
The first 4 pages
First
are
4 pages are
awesome.
great.
First 4 pages are wonderful. Yeah.
And it just kind of does feel like it's trotting some of the same territory.
But by the end, you really know what's going on. You got it down pat.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I wanted An Imperial Affliction to be an imaginary book because I think there's a perfection to books that don't exist that can't happen for books that do exist. And I really I liked that idea. I liked it thematically, but then I also wanted, I also just didn't feel like I could write it,
How do you tap into the cadence of teenagers talking to each other? And seem to have gotten that down really well.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I don't know anything about how they talk to each other. All of my friends are in their late 30s, and we have kids, and all we ever talk about is like what preschool our kids are going to go to. But I read a lot
Is
of.
that your next book?
Yeah, it's going to be like which Indianapolis preschool makes the most sense for my 2-year-old. It's going to be the stakes are going to be so high. I read a lot of comments YouTube comments, Twitter posts, Tumblr posts that are written by teenagers, obviously, just in the course of my work. But the main thing for me is that the emotional truths are there, and that's all that really matters. I don't think kids care if you captured slang properly. I think generally, actually, when you try to capture slang properly, it's an epic failure. So yeah, I just try to write with emotional authenticity and trust that they'll forgive me whatever mistakes I make.
I don't think you try, you do.
Oh, thanks, buddy. I don't know why I've been calling you buddy lately.
Yeah.
Because I always call everybody buddy.
Oh, nice, okay.
Maybe that's why, because I'm like, hey, buddy.
All right, good, good.
In the book, you use one of my favorite artists' paintings, the Cinema Pipe.
Yeah.
What made you want to use that involving with Shailene's character?
What a hip question.
That is a cool question.
Yeah.
So, that's a great question. I mean, it's got kind of a boring answer, but I'll give it to you anyway. I'm really interested in art. My wife is a curator of contemporary art, so I just get a lot of it by osmosis. And in An Imperial Affliction, one of the very few things that we do know about it is that it's very concerned with identity and authenticity and the relationship between like the perceived self and the real self, which I think is interesting for people living with cancer because a lot of times they're perceived one-dimensionally. You know, they're perceived as kind of less than fully human in some ways because they're thought of as these mere tragedies or people who, you know, can't have sexual desire or can't have full, rich love in their lives or whatever. And that distance between like the thing as it actually is and the thing as it is portrayed is captured brilliantly in that artwork because it's a picture of a pipe that says this is not a pipe and it isn't a pipe. But of course, when you look at the picture of the pipe, you think that is a pipe. Because you're thinking that the representation of a thing is the thing. And a lot of times I think when we think about people living with serious illness, we think that the popular representations of them, which I think are often very one-dimensional, often very dehumanizing, are the thing. We confuse those representations of people living with disabilities with the reality that people living with disabilities experience. And so that was what I was trying to hint at. Sorry, that was so boring.
You are so smart.
Yeah.
Thanks,
I
man.
mean, that's so.
Well, I spent
epic.
10 years writing the book, so you get bored sometimes and you do stuff like that.
Yeah, it's just amazing.
While we're on the book, you do have a really good balance in worldviews. All the characters kind of have a different approach, but none of them takes over. And Nat and Shay can weigh on finding the balance, but how do you do it?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted each of them to have their own worldviews and to still love each other. A lot of times, like, we think these days life is such an echo chamber that we think you can't love somebody if you disagree with them about one thing. You got to agree about everything to love each other. It's ridiculous.
That's not right.
Huh? Yeah. Yeah. Shay can love me despite me drinking Diet Dr. Pepper.
And you can love me despite drinking 10 cups of coffee.
So yeah, I mean, I wanted, you know, Hazel and Gus to really disagree about what the point of life is. And I love one of my favorite scenes in the movie is that scene where you and Gus are at Funky Bones and he's sad and you just get mad at him.
Yeah.
And he's like, don't get mad. And you're like, I am mad. I love
Yeah.
the way you say I am mad. That's one of my favorite moments in the movie because it's
That's
so
my favorite
frustrating
scene.
that
Yeah.
like he won't see it from your perspective, but that doesn't mean you don't love him.
Yeah.
And that, so that was just really important to me.
I think that scene is a really important message. I mean, not that a movie should be a message, you know, but I do think that that's a good message that you don't live your life to be remembered. You live your life, you know.
Yeah.
And I think her response is really beautiful in that scene.
Ansel, it's interesting to hear Ansel talk about that too. He's not here, but I'll speak for him. Because he always talks about like how like in this process he's learned that he doesn't like last night when he was asked how he wants to be remembered, and he was like friends and family, and that's cool to see. I don't know.
It's changed for me too. Well, I think it's not even necessarily to be remembered, but I think when one of the things I love so much about that message is I remember when I was in high school, I'll never forget when I was in high school, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to change the world. I'm going to stop deforestation. I'm going to do this. I'm going to like get everyone on the planet to recycle. And I was just, because you exist with a small community of people. You know, the world as you know it is related to, high school I went to had 3,000 people. So there's 3,000 people that I was like, this is going to be easy to change. And then you get out of high school and you're like, wow, there's a whole world and there's millions of people who think just like me. And yet, like, you know, there's a whole world out there, and there's so many different things that no matter what you dedicate your life to, there's still A, B, C, D, E, F. And I think that is a complex that is natural in, like, the coming-of-age process, or thinking that you're the first one to ever think of an idea or the first one to ever play a song a certain way.
Right.
And I think that, like, learning at a younger age that it's not about, like, playing that song. It's not about, like, it's playing the song because it feels good for you. It's not playing the song in pursuit of impressing others. That's what I think is so powerful.
Yeah, that's why I feel so good about being part of this movie, especially because it's such a small story that it's just about a couple people, and it's so specific. And yet, last night we hear all these people chanting these characters' names, and it's on such a big stage. And I think that's it's really amazing because it's you know, we are involved in something that's going to reach a lot of people and has the ability to, you know, John really has changed people's lives. And that was something that I even came to it even hit me harder last night than it ever has, when this girl came on stage and she was crying. She had cancer and she was crying about how much the book meant to her. And, you know, we were all kind of giving her a hug or something that was on stage, and then everybody in the whole audience started shouting her name. I was like, this is beautiful. Like, this is just, we are involved in something so much bigger than our careers and so much bigger than this movie and so much bigger than us. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what you've, like, recreated, I think, that I didn't have when I was a teenager, is a sense of community and of acceptance and of awareness. Like, there's so much discussion on bullying, and what you're doing is the answer to all of those things that people complain about at that young age, because you're creating acceptance and allowance for weirdness and for uniqueness and for being different. And you're creating a community that supports each other in our own quests, and that is so beautiful, John Gray.
Thank you, Shay.
I got a question for...
We're just going to talk to each other.
Hey, John, you want to go get some food?
Johnny Depp once wrote that for great acting performances, you have to put a part of yourself into that performance, or it's not acting, it's lying. What part of yourselves did you put into your roles? And sub-question, what did you take from your own interpretations of the characters you played from the book?
If I can start that from Girl's father's perspective.
Yeah, right? You can.
I played the role of Girl's father. It was cut from the movie, but it was really important. It was central.
When I was his
DVD.
acting coach, I actually told him that Johnny Depp quote many times.
my mind was Jackie, I'm so sorry, and I just wasn't able to internalize. I wasn't able to connect to it. I wasn't able to connect. I am also a father of a girl, and I was thinking I am also Girl's father. In real life, I am
a girl's
father, and yet I couldn't connect to that role, and that's why it got cut from the movie.
No, it got cut because they wanted to save it. They wanted to improve DVD sales because they knew people would buy them if you were on the deleted scenes.
Yeah.
I think that I would take it even a step further and expand his quote to say, I think all of me has to be in a role. I'm never playing a character I am lying. You know, like, I'm fully Shailene within the rules and restrictions of what Hazel's world creates, and I'm fully Shailene within the rules and restrictions of who Triss is. And yeah, the greatest thing that I ever received from a director was when I was working with Alexander Payne. He got to know us so well as human beings that he came up to me one day and he's like, you're not being you, be Shay. And that was his note, because I began to act, and I was acting a character versus just existing as a character, as myself through her eyes. And so I think that his quote is completely dead on.
I agree. How about you, Nat?
Yeah, I mean, also I think that, Shay makes it sound so easy, but you have to be like a master actress like Shay to be able to do that. I mean, it's like you have to be so good to be able to be as simple and truthful and honest as Shay is. And that's something that John's been saying in every article. It's like something that I learned a lot from working with you, is that we're just all so in love.
We are.
are.
We're super fond of each
It's
other.
this is like our last press conference, our last day. But I mean, it really is that you know, I do see your performances, and they are different. I mean, every single one is different. So you do submit yourself to the circumstances, and so you are playing a character, but it's just coming from a truthful place. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like you're just showing up. You know, you've incorporated the character into you, and then it comes out. You know, that's at least how it feels, because every movie is so every role you play is so specific. But I mean, for this character, for me, it was basically just I really connected to using humor to deal with pain, which is something that I've done my entire life, and I kind of came to the conclusion, because a lot of times I thought that's a negative thing. I kind of came to the conclusion that I think it's a good thing. I mean, I think if you can laugh about it, and meeting all these kids who really are going through these things. Like, I met this blind guy named Ethan who helped me out a lot, and he was super angry and super funny, you know, and so I thought that's my way into the character is that. John, what about Girl's Father? Tell us.
Like I said, I never got all the way there.
Yeah. But I mean, you know, you
faked it till you made it, though.
Yeah. No, that idea of submitting completely to the circumstance was something that I was not able to do, because I was like, boy, there sure are a lot of cameras in this airport.
And they're not just on the ceiling.
Shailene, in preparing for this role, you chopped off your hair in what looked very traumatic in the video.
I know, it does look so traumatic.
It does.
I was laughing when they did it, but it looks like I'm seriously crying.
Like sobbing.
Like sobbing.
Yeah.
Did you end up donating your hair to like Locks of Love? And beyond that, what else did everybody do to prepare for their roles? And even in
Especially Girl's Father, yeah.
Yeah, Girl's Father.
I did donate it. I donated it not to Locks of Love.
Children with Hair Loss is the name of the charity.
Yeah, and we got thousands
of other
girls
people.
to do it.
Yeah. There was a Hair for Hazel campaign. Thousands of people donated their hair. It was pretty cool.
My mom did it.
Yeah, that was so nice of your
She's
mom.
the one in the background in the video. They didn't say that was my mom. I was like,
I know.
They should have said that was my mom. Anyways, for me, preparing for the role was really because the script was so truthful and so beautiful. I felt like there wasn't really a lot in the book, because it's told from Hazel's point of view. Kind of did my homework for me as far as who she was and what her the way that she looked at the world looked like, the way she looked at the world and how that seemed. But physically, I met with some people who had similar things as Hazel as far as breathing through oxygen tubes and whatnot. And it was mostly to digest for myself how far we were going to take it in the movie. Because if I were to have authentically breathed the way that Hazel would have breathed, according to the book's idea, the movie would be very long, just because she wouldn't be able to talk fast and would have to take breaks constantly.
Lots of breaths between talking.
Between everything, yeah. And sometimes when I see the movie, you know, there's a few scenes where I get riled up and angry, and in real life, if she wouldn't be able to do that to the extent that we could go in the movie, because she would have to take many breaks to catch her breath. But visually, there's sort of always a compromise, you know, when you do make something into a cinematic experience. So that was something that I was really particular about, picking certain scenes to show that, so that it still came across, but not necessarily every scene, so that there was still something special, and like the Anne Frank house when she's going up the stairs, that really gets to people because you haven't seen her in that way before, which I thought was really important. And then you talked about working with Ethan.
I guess I sort of. I mean, on set I wore blinding contacts for when I was supposed to be totally blind, and when I was supposed to just have one eye, I would wear one blinding contact, which just took my balance off. And it was actually easy. Like, I thought it was going to be harder to act with the blinding contacts, but I actually thought it was cool because, like, I did the eulogy scene with the blinding contacts in and stuff, and it actually made me really, really free. Like, I wasn't self-conscious at all because I couldn't see the camera or the crew or anything. So there wasn't that whole added element of, like, you know, shaking out the rest of the world. It was like I really didn't
act
see
with blinding contacts
all the time. Yeah, that's gonna be my new thing. Play every character blind. Yeah.
No, you can play them not blind.
Yeah, you can play them as sighted, yeah, but then you just don't think about the
They look pretty weird. They look like you're blind. But no, but I think we all cared about the characters and wanted to do justice to them, not only to their illnesses, but also just to the characters, just without their illnesses, just to the characters. Like, there was an interview a couple days ago where somebody said to John, how do you like writing characters with these kind of flaws? And he said, I don't find the illness flaws. And I said, yeah, I think the characters already have flaws. Just regular teenage flaws.
Yeah, they have the flaws that people have, but like the idea that like illness or disability is a flaw is a really common trope in pop culture stories about serious disability.
Because if you treat that as the flaw, then the movie's going to be like, oh, the wise sick kids who sit in their bed and spout wisdom to the healthy kids and help them.
And the healthy
live
kids
the rest of their
weren't
lives.
important lessons about how to be. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas in this movie,
No healthy kids.
It's actually it's funnier and it's even more painful that they're so real. That they are angry and funny and dark. And
But that's why it was so
happy.
important to me that there aren't any healthy kids in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
That it's not about them. It's even fewer in the movie than there are in the book. Actually, it's less about healthy kids.
Yeah.
You wrote this book, and you made it, speaking as a teenager, you wrote a book, and the big trend right now is two teenagers who fall in love. And
Yeah,
you wrote,
that's been around for a while now.
Yeah.
and you didn't just write about the two teenagers who fell in love, you wrote about how they react with the family members and stuff.
Yeah.
What was it like for all three of y'all, having that difference?
Well, I mean, I wanted this to be a family story as well as a love story. I wanted it to be about all kinds of love, not just romantic love. And the love between Hazel and her parents is extremely important in the book and I think also in the movie. There's also the kind of off-screen love story between Hazel's parents. These two people who are going through a very difficult time in their marriage, but are surviving it because of their love for each other. And that was really important to me. I never really wrote about adults before because I was always bored by them, and I was always trying to get them out of the scene as quickly as possible. Like, let's get these kids on a road trip, or let's get these kids to boarding school, or whatever. But I became a parent in 2010, and I think I got really interested in being a parent. And I couldn't finish the book until I understood. I couldn't finish the book, hopefully, until I understood that as long as either Hazel or her mother is alive, that relationship will endure. That there's that wonderful moment at the end of the movie where Hazel's mom says to Hazel, "Even when you die, I will always be your mom."
Yeah, that gets me.
That's a very important idea because love is literally stronger than death in that sense, and that was very important to me. And that's not something I understood until I had a child.
Did you have problems getting permission to film there, or was that hard for them?
We were the first movie ever to film there.
Wow, what?
They liked the novel. So,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And her tying in with the story of one person who did influence.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's two people whose lives are circumscribed, Hazel by her disability and obviously by war and whose lives are likely to be shorter, or in Hazel's case, or definitely were shorter than they should have been in Anne's case. But also, I wanted them, Hazel and Gus, to be able to reclaim that space for life. Anne Frank made out in the Anne Frank house. Why can't Hazel? That while you are here, you are fully alive. And I thought the way they did the voiceover in the movie, and that whole scene is just, oh man, what a kiss.
What a kiss.
I watched it like 25 times.
In a non-creepy way.
No. Like while y'all were filming
Over and over
it.
again.
yeah.
Over
And
over
every
again,
time,
yeah.
and Wick, like the producer and the director would be like, I think they need to be a little more. And I was like, that was awesome. They were like, oh, I don't think we have maybe like a little more chase. And I was like, yeah, keep doing it. Yeah, make them do it 50 times. It was just it made me cry so much because it's just.
I love that the girl kisses the guy.
I know.
Yeah.
I love it.
I know,
Yeah.
and I love that. I love her strength in that scene. I love that she's physically weak, but she is still fully herself. I love that even when her physical limitations are really, really pulling at her, she is still, like, you still make her fully human, wanting
so
all the
tough.
same things that any other human wants. And it's so, I was so proud of that scene. Like, I honestly like that scene better in the movie than in the book. And I'm, you know, I
I
wrote the
love
books.
that scene in the book.
Oh, well, let's just keep complimenting each other.
Yeah.